On the shopping platform Wish, I bought a Victorinox SwissChamp knockoff for only 6 Swiss francs. That's about the same in dollars or euros. So just for comparison, an original SwissChamp costs about 95 Swiss francs on the Victorinox website. So the Chinese replica costs about 15 times less than the original one. So some days ago I got my knife, and now let's find out if this is a good offer or just expensive metal scrap. So stay tuned. Hello YouTube! Welcome to another Swiss Army knife comparison video. The playlist link for my previous comparison videos you'll find in the description box below. Well, after several weeks of waiting for my ordered knife, it finally arrived at my house. And by the way, the shipping cost was about $5.50. Now I would say, let's unbox this knife and I will compare it with my 10-year-old original Victorinox SwissChamp. So here it is. I would say the packaging looks quite cheap, and it looks like a cow has it already in her mouth. So here it is. My first glance of this knife with the closed tools is not that bad. I'm happy that they don't have a cross and shield on the front scale. And I realize right now that the big blade protrudes quite far out of the knife body, and the tip is not in the knife body. Can you see that? So here's the danger that you can stalk on the tip and hurt yourself. So this is quite dangerous in my opinion. And also the Reamer looks quite strange. But yeah, my first impression is not that bad. Maybe it will change if we open the tools. So now let's start to compare the tools. And I would say we go through all the tools, and we start with the small blade because this is the first tool in this direction. And the first thing what I noticed is that the nail nick is not deep enough. It's quite hard to open the small blade. The second thing I realize is that the cutting edge is quite uneven. Can you see that? Here we have a big cutting edge, a big bevel. Here we have a very small bevel. And on the other side, a little bit better, but here we have a much bigger cutting edge than here. So now let's make a paper test with the knockoff. Cut a little bit. Now paper test with the original one. Yeah, much better. Okay. So now I would say let's test the cutting angles of the knockoff. Ooh, this is really uneven. This is on one side 17 degrees, on the other side 32 degrees. If I hold it like this, it's about 2 times 25 degrees. So that's definitely too much. So now let's check the carving performance. Ooh, that's really bad. The carving performance of the Victorinox. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that's a very big difference. Pfui. So now I want to know how hard the steel of the knockoff is. And sadly I don't have a Rockwell tester, but I have a file. And I will compare it, not with the small blade of my SwissChamp, but I have here a Swiss Army knife dummy, and I will compare it with this. So now I start with the knockoff. Can you see that? I'm able to file into the steel. So this is the sign that the steel is not really hard. Now make the same on the Victorinox. And here almost nothing happened. Now, so it means the Victorinox steel is much harder than this steel of the knockoff. So okay, let's go to the big blade. The problem that the big blade protrudes too much, I have already told you. I would say first let's make a paper test. Yeah. The big blade is better than the small blade, but in comparison with the Victorinox, this is the much better cut with the Victorinox. And on the knockoff, I have here, close to the ricasso, I have something like a step. Can you see this step? Here, the other side is flat. Here I have a step. And on the Victorinox, I don't have such a step. And now I want to show you the sideways play. This is terrible. This is terrible. Wow. Now the comparison to the Victorinox. This is much, much stiffer. Oh, forget it. Look at this. So let's check the small blade. Yeah, also the small blade. Look at this. So this is too weak, much too weak. So okay, I would say, let's check the carving performance of the big blade. This is the knockoff, not that bad. Victorinox. Yeah, this is another story. So this is much better. And now I want to find out how fast I can bend the big blade. Can you see this? Now the Victorinox. Still straight. Comparison. This steel is super weak. So now I bend it back. This is maybe an advantage, that you can bend back the blade super easy. Okay, now let's go to the next tool. And this is the metal saw and the metal file. This is on the knockoff. And this is the one on the Victorinox. And here, wow, what a difference. So I have actually almost no sawing teeth. Here I have very aggressive sawing teeth. So next step is to try out the sawing performance of the metal saw. First with the knockoff. Almost no resistance. A little bit, a little cut. Victorinox. Well, 100 times more aggressive than this one. Now I want to try out the file performance. First, I would say the knockoff. Okay, that works a little bit. Now, the Victorinox. That's much better, much better. Victorinox one. The Victorinox file is much more aggressive, and you can feel this even with your fingertip. Okay, so we change to the next tool. This is the wood saw. This is the knockoff. This is the Victorinox one. So first 10 strokes with the knockoff. Jam. So you can't saw because the saw is clamping in the slot. It really doesn't work, forget it. Now Victorinox. Yes, this is how a saw should work. So this saw blade doesn't work. It jams like crazy in the self-made groove. But actually this is logical, because in the cross section this saw blade isn't tapered to the spine. So now I want to test if I can bend the wood saw. Oh. Ach Gott. Hoppla. So the wood saw break very quick. Crazy. Okay, forget it. Next tool is the scissors. Hoppla. So. Scissors, this is the knockoff, this is the original one. So I would say, first test is cut normal paper. Victorinox Perfect. Knockoff works also. So then next test, tissue. One layer of a tissue. So this is one layer of a tissue. Victorinox. Works perfect. Can you see that? Knockoff. Forget it. Doesn't work. Okay, then next we take paracord. So Victorinox. Perfect in one cut. Knockoff. Look at this. Forget it, doesn't work. So next tool I want to compare is the pliers. The knockoff. Look at this, can you see that? So you have side play and not too less. And on the Victorinox one, you have 0 side play, 0. And I know that you should don't give sideways forces like this, but nevertheless, I would try to bend this nail. And look at this. That is. Oh no. Yeah, now it works. Yeah, this is a really bad tool. As I said. So this tool is, in my opinion, good enough to grab a hot object out of a fire, and that works for sure. But to bend something, forget it. So the Victorinox pliers is much better than this one. So next tool is the magnifying glass. The transparent one is the Victorinox one. That works. And the magnifying glass from the knockoff is just bullshit. Doesn't work. And look at this. This is too easy. I forget it. But what I like is the metal frame. This is a plus point. This is a plus point. I like the metal frame. So next tool is the Philip head screwdriver. Both tools has 2 stops, here and here. Now I try to turn in this screw with the knockoff. So with the knockoff, it's not possible anymore to turn the screw further in. That's why I take the Victorinox. Yeah, so the Victorinox is so much better. Now, can opener, it's the next tool. So, and here on the knockoff, you have a very big cutting edge, a very big chamfer. Here a super small one. On the other side, also here, a very big chamfer on the knockoff, and just a small one on the Victorinox. So that's why I wonder how much these cutting angles are. So first, I try to measure on the knockoff, so like this. This is, I would say, something like 2 times 20 degrees, probably a bit more. So this is 40 degrees together. This is this, believe it or not, this is 2 times 40 degrees. Can you see that? No, you can't see that. But believe me, this is 2 times 40 degrees. So that means that the cutting angle on the Victorinox can opener is something around 80 degrees. And this is 40 degrees, this is the half. This is also the reason why we have these big chamfers here on both sides. But let's test if it works. Maybe it works. Okay. Yes. That works great. So I don't know how long, but it works great. So the next tool I want to compare is the bottle opener. This is the knockoff, this is the original, and it seems to be quite similar. So now let's test if I can open a bottle with a knockoff, and that works easy, no problem. So now I want to compare the performance of the big screwdrivers. First I work with the Victorinox. Yes, that works. Now with the knockoff. Oh no. Damage. Okay. Huh? So now I try to repair it, that we can test the all. So now I'm back, and I tell you, I can't repair it because the rivet is broken. Yeah. But nevertheless, let's jump to the Reamer. And this Reamer is a nightmare. Look at this. So the Victorinox Reamer has a cutting edge here. And this groove should make a cutting edge, but this is absolutely round. So this Reamer is a nightmare. Forget it, doesn't work. Nothing. Oh yeah. Okay. And next, the hook. The knockoff doesn't have a hook, but here we have, I don't know what this is, a small screwdriver, but this is like round. Forget it. And this is also weak, like the other one. This is bullshit. Doesn't work. Forget it. And this is, this should be a chisel. You know, this should be a chisel, but this is a chisel. The knockoff is a chisel without cutting edge. Also funny. Doesn't work. Okay, now to the corkscrew. So, and the micro screwdriver. And this looks quite funny, but it works, I guess. And yeah, this is the difference. Can you see that? Victorinox one, knockoff one. And now I will try if this corkscrew from the knockoff is stable enough. And I don't want to open the wine, but I screw in wood and pull a little bit, and I will see what happens. Now I will pull a bit. Okay, that seems to work. Oh no, I bend it. Can you see that? So it's like this, I bend it. So let's go to the last tools. This is the toothpick. This is the toothpick from the Victorinox. Yeah, okay. It's not so important for me. But I like the tweezers. And this tweezer has a metal head. This is a plus point. And the tweezer from Victorinox works well. The tweezers of the knockoff. Look at this. What is this? This is not spring steel. Look at this. Hey, forget it. This is a joke. Come on. Okay. Yeah, so my friends, now to my conclusion. If you want to buy a multi-tool as toy, you will probably be happy with this tool. But if you need a multi-tool to work with, better buy toilet paper for $6 than this one. So this doesn't work. This Chinese knockoff doesn't work. This is crap. Forget it. So my friends, That's it for today. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and see you next Friday. Ciao!